Hey, what's up everybody, it's Alpha, and I just want to make a video talking about options versus shares, and especially with a title like that, I know it might be a little harsh. I didn't want anyone to think, any of my viewers, or think I'm being like, oh, if you're buying options, if you're buying calls, you're hurting the squeeze. No, nothing like that. I just wanted to give you guys some information so you guys can make your best decision moving forward and see what you really want to do. And before we get into it, I'd just like to mention I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please take what I say with a grain of salt. And I'd also like to mention that 88% of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you hit that sub button, it'd mean a lot to me. Thank you if you do. So, I've talked about this plenty of times, but of course shares never expire. And that's it's a very reassuring, especially with AMC, because oh gosh, sorry, I can't write and talk. I'm still working on that. I'm terrible with that. But yeah, you have to keep in mind that this play, the short squeeze, could, this could run on for the next 3 to 6 months, and I mean honestly to a year. And I don't think that's very probable, but it's definitely a possibility. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely okay with holding that long. I mean, shorts have to cover at the end of the day, and I'm willing to wait as long as it takes. But shares don't expire. I mean, of course, you could do long call options, like really like year or two out. But those are very expensive, and honestly, those might work very well. But with shares, it's very reassuring. Like, hey, no matter what, I'm never gonna lose these shares. I mean, of course, the value of the shares are gonna go up and down. But, you'll always have that same amount of shares. So for someone like me, I stress about stuff like that sometimes. So it's very reassuring as opposed to calls. Another thing that happens is when the calls expire, who gets that premium? The writer. The writer of the calls gets the premium. And that might not be a big deal, but you have to keep in mind, Citadel is one of the biggest options writers in the game. And you bet your ass they're writing options for AMC, especially calls, because they know that a lot of them are going to expire. So pretty much when your calls expire, you're paying for Kenny G's, vacation coming up or something like that. He's going to need it because he's probably stressing out. And another thing to keep in mind, obviously, I'm sure you guys know this by now. I mean, just preaching to the choir. But I would say it's pretty safe to say at this point in the game that the market makers, which is, Citadel, control the price. And when you're playing options, especially short-term options, you're pretty much living in their world. And I mean, we've seen it a million times on Fridays where they just try to knock us down as hard as they can, to prevent a lot of call options from being in the money. And it's a very fair way to play the game. I understand why they're doing it, but it's kind of fucked up. But yeah, I mean, we've seen it on Fridays, and essentially they control the price. They control it through short ladder attacks. I mean, look at this picture. I mean, you can that's all you have to see, but they're also sending all these orders off exchange. So you're pretty much living in their world, especially when you're playing short-term options. So just be wary of that, because if they a certain Friday, they're like, yeah, we're not going to give these people money. Well, honestly, they're probably going to knock that price down. But another thing, I've not seen that many people talk about this, is when this actually squeezes. Hold on, this is going to be a sec. Sorry, oh God, my handwriting's terrible. When this squeezes, right? People aren't going to be buying options at a very high price. And I know a lot of people are going to be holding to like 1K, I mean, that's obviously low, but 1K, 2K, 5K, 10K, 25K, 100K, whatever you're holding for, people really aren't probably going to be buying options at that high of a price. I'd say it's going to be hard to get options to sell, probably like 4 figures plus. And the thing with shares as opposed to options is, say Citadel gets liquidated and then the short squeeze is just, it's going to the moon, like all hell's breaking loose. The DTCC steps in and they have computers, and it's just emotionless computers that pretty much balance the books, and they keep buying up shares, to balance the books and have these shorts covered. And there's nothing like that for call options. So say the squeeze is running, it's going to the moon, you're making all this money on paper with the call option, but that's useless if it can't sell. And it's also not to say, like, say like $200, $300, $400. I mean, you're gonna make a lot of money on call options then. But if you're holding it for the moon, you might not be able to sell those contracts when they're all the way up there. So just something to keep in mind. I advise, if you're really looking for, if you're still thinking about playing options, I just advise you to do more research into it. Not financial advice, but keep in mind, you're overpaying for that premium, but further out options like year two, a lot safer of a bet than doing like a 2-week, 1-week YOLO, especially in a play like AMC, where pretty much the game here is just trying to outlast the opponent. And that person would be Citadel. And these guys have a lot of time, they have a lot of money. And so do we. Keep in mind with shares versus calls, do what's best for you. But personally, I tend to rock with shares. I was really big on calls, but a few of mine expired out of the money, and I'm like, that kind of sucks, that kind of hurts. But that's going to be it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot to me. And yeah, have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.